David Green regarding new business item number 2.
Not much of a question, but I wanted to applaud the utilities' use of the tree trimming program to cut down on cost of line maintenance and repair. I think it's been a very successful program. If we just get rid of those blasted squirrels, I think we'd be in pretty good shape. But I think it's definitely paid for itself, and I've got no issue whatsoever with the contract structure.
Very good, thank you.
I was greatly encouraged to see the expenditure in 2014 to go more than half what it was the first time. Well, half what it was the first time around. I mean, that's tremendous, and actually, I think that because of the tree trimming, it's actually been a little easier on the squirrels. They just still happen to muck up the works once in a while.
Transformers, you know. It comes back to preventative maintenance and doing things proactively instead of waiting for a tree to fall on a power line. So,
correct.
If we could do that with this, I'm sure we'll be able to get the same kind of benefits from getting it.
Well, a good case in point is the infamous ice storm in 2002. The city had not been aggressively trimming trees. In fact, we were pretty much back in the ag. We were 80% in the dark in the first time.
I know this will, when they contact people about trimming the trees, they get a little hot under the collar initially, but I tell you what, the staff over at Gardner Energy does a good job of cooling them off. So, if there's any other further comments or questions, I would entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second. Motion second Freeman, that we approve, that we authorize the city administrator to execute addendum number 3 for the February 17th, 2012 power line right-of-way and tree trimming agreement with Asplin Tree Expert Company in an amount not to exceed the budgeted amount of $100,000 for tree trimming in 2015. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Let's cut some trees.
Great, thank you very much.
Very good, thanks, Dave. New business item number 3. Consider amendment number 2 for the management consultant agreement with Mr. David M. Green. Joe.
Mayor and Council, I've had an opportunity to meet with the recruiter who is working on securing a utility director for us. They are looking at about a 90-day time frame. They have a list of people that are part of their data bank, but they will be also sending out a notice to potential employees, to companies, and in various utility outlets to post for the position. In the interim, this extension should give us sufficient time so they complete that process so that we don't have a gap in having someone serving at the director level.
Public comment regarding new business item number 3. With no one coming forward, questions regarding this? Not, I'd entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second. Motion Harrison, second Freeman, that we authorize the city administrator to execute amendment number 2 to the management consultant agreement with David M. Green, which would increase the contract amount by $26,000 for a maximum total contract not to exceed $96,000 for services through March 31st, 2015. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? We don't get rid of you that easy, do we, Debbie?
No, thank you.
Very good. New business item number 4. Consider adopting an ordinance revising the governing body rules of procedure. Jeannie, good evening and welcome. And this is your first time at the podium?
It is.
Well, Well, good luck there.
Well, thank you. At the December 15th City Council meeting, the City Council adopted an ordinance changing the Electric Utility Advisory Board to Utility Advisory Commission. During discussion of this item, the council considered a number of recommendations from the advisory board, including a recommendation to include a member of the new commission in the interview process for appointments to the commission. The city council came to a consensus that a representative from the applicable board or commission should be included in the interview process for appointments, and directed staff to prepare a revision to the governing body rules of procedure. These revisions can be found on page 8 of the draft document, and just add the words board/commission representative to be included in the candidate interview process. Revisions were also made to the document changing Electric Utility Advisory Board to Utility Advisory Commission, which can be found on page 6 and 7 of the draft document, where page 7 also includes language to state that the Utility Advisory Commission member must be a resident of the city and a customer of one of the city's utilities, which reflects the language in the ordinance that was passed. During council briefings last week, an inquiry was made regarding the rules of procedure and covered the following items. One was noting who is responsible for monitoring attendance on boards/commissions, which this language is found on page 8 of the draft document. And then number 2, is it allowed or not allowed to attend a meeting by phone when unable to attend in person? At the December 2nd meeting, this was discussed, and the city attorney confirmed that voting by phone is allowed by the Kansas Open Meetings Act, although our governing body rules of procedure discuss whether a council member must be present, and the term present isn't clearly defined as whether being present by phone or present in person, and that's found on page 10 of the draft document. As these items are policy decisions, it is up to the city council whether to discuss these items tonight and incorporate additional changes to the rules of procedure to be adopted by ordinance.
Is that all you have for right now? You probably don't want to go too far.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and honestly, do you have a microphone at your seat?
I do.
Okay. That's, you've got duties as the clerk to carry forth with as well, so we can assign questions to you from there.
Okay.
But good job with the podium. But at this point, we'll open the floor for public comment regarding the new business item. Is there anyone present that would like to speak regarding new business item number 4? With no one coming forward, questions? If not, if there are no questions, that's my motion. I would entertain a motion.
So moved. Second.
Motion shoot, second Freeman, that we adopt ordinance number, I've got it here someplace. Okay, Jeannie.
2477.
That's why you went back to your seat. That we adopt ordinance number 2477, incorporating, by reference, the governing body rules of procedure as revised into the municipal code of the city of Gardner, Kansas. Roberts?
Yes.
Williams?
Yes.
Harrison?
Yes.
Freeman?
Yes.
Shute?
Yes.
Ordinance number 2477 passes. Okay.
I'm going to give a brief presentation on the 2015 state legislative agenda.
I've got to sort through all this. Just a little levity. New business item number 5. Consider the 2015 state legislative agenda. Matt Wolf, welcome and good evening.
Good evening. I'm going to give a brief presentation on the 2015 state legislative agenda. And the reason I'm not going through every single line or every single item on it is because it's really similar to the 2014 one. There's only 2 new items. And both these new items are taken from the county and joint cities state legislative platform. Item 16, International Symbol of Access. Basically, this deals with supporting legislation that would allow local government to use the new accessible icon. This is to try and change views of how people view people with disabilities and encourage people with disabilities to be more active and engaged in their lived environment. And item 17 is the Metro Law Enforcement Mutual Aid. This would allow legislation that would allow law enforcement to work cooperatively across state borders and to more efficiently respond to emergencies and disasters. At this time, I'd like to take any questions.
Okay. Well, we're going to open the floor for public comments first regarding new business item number 5. Please remember to state your name and address for the record. Before you
have by heart by now. Debbie Hickman, 848 South Sumac. I guess I'm hoping that at some point in time in your discussion, you'll maybe address some things for us and explain LKM, okay? Is adopting these things that you adopt each year, is that just another one of those kind of those exercises in what we do every year? Or is there really some value that this legislative agenda brings to the city of Gardner? What value? If there is, then I would ask, do the municipalities or do the cities have any type of direct say into how this legislative agenda is formed? If so, what format does that take? Is that a survey? If so, who fills it out? I'm going to presume it's going to be city council or staff at the direction of city council, but then at what point do the citizens, are they able to have input into that? So I'm just confused as to how all of a sudden we get to a legislative agenda for an organization of lobbyists. How does that help us in the city of Gardner? Maybe somebody can address that, explain a little bit about how this affects us, and is there a value to this? Do we have to adopt it? If we don't adopt it, somebody going to come get us? So maybe you can help me understand. I am ignorant in terms of exactly how all that works. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Matt, before you get started, I will say that I would say that there's value in us putting together a legislative agenda for a number of different reasons, and honestly, it's several pages and quite a few different items. But let me highlight a couple that are important for us. Item number 5, which is transportation issues. Some of these are things that we're working with in cooperation with Johnson County. Some of it is stuff that the League of Kansas Municipalities, they've got a legislative agenda committee. They are always looking for representatives from the municipalities to serve on it. Every year at the annual meeting, a room much larger than this is better than half filled with representatives from municipalities all across the state. People are given an opportunity to weigh in on this, but this is developed through the use of not just the legislative agenda committee, but subcommittees on things like home rule and local control. Home rule and local control committee will make recommendations, and people serve on some of those. I myself am working with energy and the environment on a committee. I've attended a couple of meetings in Topeka on that. So, you know, this is not something that's league driven. It's something that's driven by participating municipalities all across the state of Kansas. This was something that, you know, we visit this, I believe, twice a year. Once when it's proposed, and then once when it comes back and gets voted on. So, I would say to anybody that's very interested in this, you know, listen the first time around, pose questions to your elected officials, make public comments when it comes up for, approval like it's doing this evening. Now, I will say, back to this year's legislative agenda, under transportation issues, there's a couple of things on here that are important to us in particular, that we're not doing joint with Johnson County or joint with, the league necessarily. We're looking for funding from the Department of Transportation for capacity improvements at I-35 and 175th Street, and also, at Gardner Road. And we're hoping that, the DOT is going to see fit to add additional capacity improvements on I-35, basically 3 lanes in each direction, heading south until it gets to the Johnson County line, at least. That's what we're pushing for. I will tell you that, one of the things that's been added is the Metro Law Enforcement Mutual Aid. Now, that isn't so important to us, but, you know, a couple of years ago, maybe even less, there was a active shooter situation at the mall on Ward Parkway, and as it turns out, police officers from Leawood were able to arrive on the scene prior to Kansas City, Missouri police showing up. So they didn't take any action at that time because they didn't have this kind of mutual aid agreement, and we don't know whether or not there was an opportunity for them to stem some of the violence before it went on to its conclusion. This basically just is allowing people that live along the state lines on any side of the state to be able to assist other jurisdictions, even if they're across state line borders. It's public safety, and I think that it's something that's very needed. It doesn't matter as much to people that are in the middle of the state. Maybe they don't see the need for it. It doesn't matter as much for the sheriff's department, because for whatever reason, sheriff's department deputies can cross the state line and have that, but cities don't have that ability. And this is legislation that's aimed at changing that for the good of our neighbors on our east, north, west, or south. So, you know, I know that some of this stuff comes back boilerplate year after year, but I think that people could make a case for the value in some of those things as well. And off the soapbox now, and Matt, if you want to come back, anyone else have comments or questions regarding the legislative agenda?
I've got several. I think that people knew about this before. You've answered a question I was going to ask Matt, so having to do with the genesis of the legislative agenda. I know that Johnson County has been heavily involved in this, as well as League of Kansas municipalities. I thought I was. Can you guys hear me a little better?
No, I'm getting this high signs in the back of the room.
Okay, well, is there a microphone issue? That's a little better. Is that better now? Okay. I'm looking at the agenda, and I was involved with some of those meetings with the LCAM. You and I went down to Wichita, and we talked about these things. Legislative Affairs Committee was there, and very active, and having those discussions. I don't think that this is our chance to review it as well as vote on it. I don't think that we set those in 2 separate sessions. So if you'll indulge me for a couple of minutes, I've got several points that I am disputing on this particular legislative agenda that I think need to be addressed. The first one is item 2C, which is destination-based sales tax. And personally, I think that I know that we've been talking about that, and I know that there's been a greater amount of discussion on that for the situation with taxing of internet sales, particularly. and how that's gonna come down at the state level, because I know that's gonna be coming up again this legislative session. Personally, I'm opposed to it, but partly because of the fact that, there's already, brick and mortar taxation that's taking place, but that's something I can live with, I guess, but I just wanted to note my objection to that. The second one is open meetings and open records, and I wanted to ask, our counsel, Ms. Denk, if, what we would consider certain instances, where sensitive information should not be disclosed under, these exceptions that are listed here. Because personally, I understand things that are shared in executive session, things that directly relate to, non-elected personnel, but what other exceptions are we talking about here with because I'm against anything that's gonna limit transparency, period.
Yeah, under the COMA, there is a list of probably 20 exceptions to COMA that you can adjourn to executive session for personnel matters, property transit, acquisition, preliminary discussions for acquisition of real estate.
Yep.
I didn't go through the list, but it's attorney-client communications.
Sure.
Any privileges recognized by state law is also covered. So I think that the LKM's position is really to just kind of stand pat on what those positions are. I haven't heard anything.
It's 45-221,
Yep.
there's actually 47 exceptions, it's
Yes.
what's listed there, just so everyone understands that, but
Certainly.
they're detailed out of what those exceptions in those cases are.
So I just wanted to, I understand, I didn't want to see where we were going to be expanding those exceptions lists or anything like that, because again, I believe transparency, especially when it comes to open records, is important. Open meetings, I understand there's some discretion, but I don't want to see us, putting in any kind of policies that would significantly prohibit citizens' access to information through written form. Number 10, I think, is the biggest point of contention for everybody, and that is the concealed carry position. And personally, I understand where the LCAM is standing on this. They believe that these new legislative initiatives have created an undue burden on municipalities by forcing them to put in security measures that would prohibit individuals from carrying concealed in their buildings. Personally, the best option that I think that municipalities have is to take the signs down, and I don't think that you can that any legislation that protects an individual's constitutional right that's guaranteed under the United States Constitution is something that's a local option decision at the municipal level. So, and I think that most of the individuals that have spoken on this particular subject would agree, and most of these people, most of the citizens in this community would agree. So for that reason alone, I would vote against this. On number 11, commercial property valuations. It seems to me, and I've looked at this over and over again, and I've seen, talked to commercial landowners as well as developers. Typically, assessed valuations are like gas prices. They go up very fast, and they go down slowly. And we're just coming off the curve of these assessed valuation adjustments a year and a half ago, and we've been in basically a recession since 2009 in terms of property values. So I've got a real problem with that. This suggested legislation places the burden of proof back on the property owner with these informal hearing presentations, which would guarantee the valuations would go up even faster and go down even slower, and I'm not interested whatsoever in that particular change to that statute. The last one is number 15, and that's taxpayer-funded lobbyists. And I'm on the record in multiple venues as stating against that I'm opposed to taxpayer dollars, whether it's through contributions to a state lobbying organization such as LKM or other entities being utilized to advocate for changes to legislation that would increase the tax burden on citizens at the local level. So that's my list, and I'm sure that other people will have discussion on that, but that's my concern with this agenda.
Anyone else? Questions or comments about the legislative agenda?
I
I don't have as many concerns as Steve, but I would agree with him on 10 and 11.
Do we have a third council member that's, interested in discussing, removing, 10 and 11 from our legislative agenda?
Number 10 is actually, it almost in itself is redundant because we've already discussed home rule and local control. I actually have no, and even unfunded mandates, which in some cases, some people have suggested that kind of thing being, so it really is a redundant piece because it's already addressed. I think it's item 1, and then there was a separate one that discussed.
Yes, item number.
It gets hit twice before even having number 10. So, forgive me, I can't.
Yes, that's 1B is what you're thinking.
Home rule and local control, I mean, that's what the question of number 10 falls into, is if you believe in home rule and local control. So it's already in there. If you prefer to leave 10 out altogether and just have it rolled into what we want to look at from number 1, I'd be perfectly fine with that.
I agree.
So we'll remove number 10. What about number 11?
I don't have an issue with number 11 either. My understanding is it actually expedites the process on both sides. I understand it can expedite it from the county, but also the property owner themselves would also be able to get resolution in shorter fashion.
And I've actually received some examples from property owners who complained about the process as it is today, because it did take a very long amount of time for them to get some issues resolved, so.
So I don't have an issue with that one.
My biggest concern with 11.
Excuse me.
Sorry. Actually, go ahead.
Okay.
My biggest concern with 11 has nothing to do necessarily with the expedition of the process. My concern with 11 is the fact that it's changing the burden of proof. It's shifting the burden of proof from the appraisal's office to the commercial property owner. And in doing so, it makes it much more difficult for them to be able to contest and make adjustments to the assessed valuation of their property. That increases the burden, the taxable burden on that property owner. And I understand that there's some issues with efficiency and with expediting certain claims that are not addressed with current legislation, but you can do that without shifting the burden of that proof onto the commercial property owner.
I understood it's shifting the burden onto the county appraiser.
No, that's what the current statute is.
I see. I get, then, I read the statute earlier, but then I've read this here. You'd have to explain to me of how that shifts the burden and what pain point that causes you, because I don't understand it to be that way.
Well, presenting the information at the informal level means a hearing before the assessor's office, okay? So, what you're doing here is you're saying that in order for it to go forward in the process into an actual, formal hearing, you would have to prove to the assessor that you have a case before going to the next step. Now, if you get that case proven at that level, then it can be expedited pretty quickly. But in the assessor's opinion, if the assessor agrees that you don't have a case, then you have to go through an arbitration process, and that's a second level, a second layer. I think that ultimately what you're going to end up having is a situation where valuations going up are going to be disputed, and the valuations going down are going to be, are going to come slower.
I think that's the case currently. I don't think that changes. I guess,
Yeah.
I think we just see it differently. The way I read it.
I think it exacerbates the
wasn't that
problem.
way.
I think it exacerbates the problem instead of solving it.
My personal opinion is that it allows for a kind of intermediary step. It doesn't prevent anybody from going to a hearing at all. It doesn't elongate that time frame for it. It puts a step in there where somebody can present data informally and get a decision. And if they don't like that decision, they
You still have all the full appeals process.
Yeah, I mean.
Okay, so you understood it to be that way as well?
Yeah.
me too.
Okay.
Now, that's, Steve, I can tell that you're feel strongly about your opinions.
Absolutely.
Duly noted.
It puts a burden on the commercial property owner.
Any other questions or comments regarding the legislative agenda? Because if not, I would have entertained a motion, new business item number 5.
So moved.
Does need to be noted that number 10 is stricken.
Oh. Yeah, I'll mention that in the motion.
Second.
Motion Harrison, second Freeman, that we approve the 2015 state legislative agenda for the city of Gardner, with the amendment to strike item number 10 in its entirety. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
No.
New business item number 5. Alright. That will do it for new business items. Now, we've got some time left for council updates. Does staff have anything for council? Jeff?
That's it.
Ryan?
No, sir.
Cheryl, I believe you've got
I do.
some information to share.
You have at your seat, the printed budget that's approved for 2015. I do want to go over a couple of things that are in here. The priority-based budgeting process that we put in place. There are a couple of things that we implemented new this year. First, you have a revised message that gives kind of a state of affairs financially for the organization. We're going to be coming back to you February 2nd for a budget workshop. Page 73 has kind of an overview of some of the things that we're going to be talking about with government funds and proprietary funds. The key noticeable piece, I committed to you during the budget preparation that we would be dealing with metrics. If you look in each department, starting with administration on page 97, their goals and objectives as well as accomplishments. And then on page 98, talks about the core performance measures tied to the citizen satisfaction survey. And you'll see how they are aligned with your strategic priorities. So we're enhancing that priority-based budgeting process where through each department, we have metrics or performance measures by department. We have measures on page 110 for business and economic development. For finance, goals and objectives, accomplishments on 119, and then immediately following that, the core performance measures tied to the citizen satisfaction survey. So as you go through the budget, you'll see those things that we are looking at to measure. We have some 2013 actual, 2014 targets, and then the 2015 targets. And once we develop the 2016 budget, we will be continuing to track these things as you give us direction on your policies and initiatives. So we'll talk more about the budget as we prepare next year's budget at the February 2nd workshop.
This looks fantastic.
Oh, reminder, thank you. We are starting the budget process this year. This week, the first activity is going to be the Citizen Engagement Forum. That is on Thursday night. And so we're kicking it off on Thursday night with the Citizen Engagement Forum. And then the council workshop will follow on February 2nd, and we'll give you a report and an update of how that forum went at the workshop on the 2nd.
Fantastic. Okay, council have anything for said? Cory? Steve?
Quickly, Cheryl, will we have copies of these available, maybe as a sort of a checkout sort of function for residents if they're interested in looking at a full presentation of the
We're
budget?
actually going to post it. We're going to post it on the website.
Okay, so they'll be able to go online. If
They'll be
anyone
able to
wants a
look
printed copy,
online.
do we have one available that they could have access to? Jeannie, is 9?
We have one.
Perfect. The next question, for the upcoming citizens meetings, I would just recommend having maybe copies of the, payment management program available, so they might be able to review as well. I know it's posted online, but perhaps a hard copy available, just a couple. I think there might be some people that'd be interested in that, and maybe have a takeaway, even if, I don't think it needs to be the full color presentation, just from a cost perspective, but black and white copy sets, I think some folks might wanna take that away if they're engaged in the process.
Okay,
That's all I had.
all right, thank you.
Steve?
Yeah, I'll piggyback on what he said. The PMP, the Payment Management Program presentation would be great to have online, so they could look at there, as well
Okay.
as with some hard copies of the citizen engagement meeting.
Sure.
I know that you had given council an update on the recruitment process for the positions that are outstanding right now, and I know that Mary isn't here to present that. Will you be able to give a quick overview?
Yes, I will.
To the people in
I'll give a
attendance?
quick overview, and actually, Mary is preparing a written report that will go out to, the council. She's been coordinating with Appion on the recruitment for the Business and Economic Development Director, as well as the Utility Director. Those efforts are underway. The police chief, interviews, that process has been coordinated with MRSA. Those interviews are taking place, and hopefully we will be able to, the committee will come to, a recommendation that we can do background check on for the police chief, after those interviews.
I know we're really anxious to get these
Yes.
positions filled.
Well, and
So-
I can say, the interviews for the finalists for the police chief at this point, that's coming up very soon. Easily before the end of the month, decisions could be made, and offers extended, maybe even before we gather in council chambers.
And the level of citizen involvement in this process is?
It's the same level that we had before.
Okay.
Rob Shippey, as a longtime resident and a
Yeah.
member of the school board, and Jenny Lively, another longtime resident. of
Excellent.
Belcher Town.
That's wonderful.
As
Yes.
well as the council president and myself, Cheryl Harrison.
Great, thanks for the update. I'm looking forward to the presentation from Mary.
Okay.
Thanks.
Don? Kristen? I want to give a little update. We've got, as it turns out, two different appointment processes kind of running concurrently. We had 3 members of the Utility Advisory Commission that were up for reappointment. As it turns out, we've got 4 people that have applied for the 3 positions. In the interim, and within a couple of weeks of the other, undertaking the other process, former council member and Randy Gregorczyk resigned his position on the Utility Advisory Commission, involving us to start another recruitment process. Since we've got 3 positions available, and 4 candidates at this point, and another one running concurrently, I meant to speak with the council president about this beforehand, because she had volunteered to serve during the interview process. What I would like to do, since they're so close together, and if somebody applies for that first process, we keep those applications on file for a year. And if an opportunity comes up again and they want to be considered again, they can be considered again, rather than interview the same candidate again another week later. Whoever that might be, if they are interested, I would ask that you please indulge us and help us out finding a replacement for the position that was resigned.
So basically, we would wait until the most recent vacancy ended and interview however many candidates for 4 positions at the same time?
No, what we'll do is, we'll interview all 4 of them for the 3 vacant, well, not for the 3 positions that are up for reappointment.
Right.
And we'll interview all 4 of them, so we won't have to if one of them won't get appointed, if that person wants to be considered for the next one, then he can be considered for the next open seat without having to be interviewed again.
What's the only one? Then we just appoint.
Then at that point, we could bring him hearing that first.
We have had some applications.
But there's still be an
We have-
application, yeah.
Yeah, we have to go, we
Okay,
still have to
yeah,
follow the
that was my
process.
question.
Yes.
So it's a lot.
But that is
Basically,
correct.
at this point in
At this point, we know we
time,
have
we
it
applied
for four
four
seats.
positions.
That is
Okay,
correct.
got it. Right.
Actually, we've got four positions right now, but they're not,
She said we didn't have enough.
oh, we got another one in?
Yes, sir.
Oh,
I guess, so then I go back to my original question, why couldn't we just, when does the current vacancy end?
well, we can interview,
Why not just do all of them at the same time instead of doing two
we
processes?
could, okay, we could interview all of them at the same time, but only one of them has applied, obviously, for the vacant position for Mr. Gregorski. So he wouldn't be in the mix for the three appointments.
But couldn't we ask him, does he care? I
Well-
mean, I guess the way I look at it, I mean, they're not really applying for a person's position, they're applying for a position on the utility board, right? So why does it matter? I guess I'm just, why can't we interview them all at the same time?
No, I'm saying we can interview them
Okay,
all at the
okay,
same time,
okay.
but one of those people only applied for Mr. Gregorski.
Yeah. It's because of the governing body rules, see, you have a
Yes.
specific window of application for,
He did not apply.
Okay,
but-
okay.
Yeah.
yeah.
Also, very much looking forward to the, I won't be attending, as far as I'm concerned, it's not my part of the budget process, but I'm very much looking forward to, the citizens having an opportunity to come and have a workshop on Thursday. Gardner U, the Citizens Academy will start, the following week on the 29th, and, lots going on, so. Anyway, if there isn't anything else, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion, second Harrison, that we adjourn. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? We're adjourned.
No, that's okay.
And yes, it's